This is a story of John of Cappadocia, Praetorian Prefect of the East during the age of the Emperor Justinian. A Praetorian Prefect was a high-ranking Roman official primarily responsible for commanding the elite Praetorian Guard, overseeing city administration, managing financial affairs, and sometimes acting as a judge in legal cases, essentially holding significant power in maintaining order and governance within the Roman Empire. Their dual role in military command and civil administration made them extremely influential figures, often considered close advisors to the emperor. John was a man who had no morals, who would do almost anything for power. In a world without a system of checks and balances, the everyday person suffers. As we will see, it takes lying, betrayals, and backstabbing or violence in order to get someone out of power. His knowledge was not borrowed from the schools, and his style was scarcely legible, but he excelled in the powers of native genius to suggest the wisest counsels and to find expedients in the most desperate situations. The corruption of his heart was equal to the vigor of his understanding. He appeared insensible to the fear of God or the reproaches of man, and his aspiring fortune was raised on the death of thousands, the poverty of millions, the ruins of cities, and the desolation of provinces. From the dawn of light to the moment of dinner, John, with great care, labored to enrich his masters and himself at the expense of the Roman world. The remainder of the day was spent in sensual and obscene pleasures, and the silent hours of the night were interrupted by the perpetual dread of the justice of an assassin. His abilities, perhaps his vices, recommended him to the lasting friendship of Justinian. For 10 years, John oppressed the people of the Eastern Roman Empire, and it wasn't until the emperor's wife, Theodora, who hated John, started a conspiracy which would remove John from her husband's service. At a time when General Belisarius, who had been a hero, was currently not in the emperor's good graces, and his wife, Antonia, who enjoyed the secret confidence of the empress, communicated his feigned discontent with John's daughter. The credulous virgin imparted to her father the dangerous project, and John, who must have known the value of oaths and promises, was tempted to accept a nocturnal and almost treasonable interview with the wife of Belisarius. An ambush of guards and eunuchs had been posted by the command of Theodora. They rushed with drawn swords to seize or to punish the guilty minister. He was saved by the fidelity of his attendants, but instead of appealing to a gracious sovereign who had privately warned him of his danger, he cowardly fled to the sanctuary of the church. The favorite of Justinian was sacrificed to domestic tranquility. The conversion of John into a priest extinguished his ambitious hopes, but the friendship of the emperor alleviated his disgrace, and he retained in the mild exile of Criscus an ample portion of his riches. Such imperfect revenge could not satisfy the unrelenting hatred of Theodora. The murder of his old enemy, the bishop of Criscus, afforded a decent pretense, and John of Cappadocia, whose actions had deserved 1,000 deaths, was at last condemned for a crime of which he was innocent. A great minister, who had been invested with the honors of consul and patrician, was horribly beaten like the vilest of malefactors. A tattered cloak was the sole remnants of his fortune. He was transported in a bark to a place of his banishment at Antonopolis in Upper Egypt. And John, once the prefect of the East, begged his bread through the cities which had trembled at his name. During an exile of 7 years, his life was protracted and threatened by the ingenious cruelty of Theodora. And when her death permitted the emperor to recall a servant whom he had abandoned with regret, the ambition of John of Cappadocia was reduced to the humblest duties in the church.